Okay, we're at part 3 of the North American drug war. By the way, if you want more information on this, in my first book, Accidental Superpower, the chapter that I considered the darkest wasn't the one on the coming breakup of the European Union or the wars that would happen in China. It was literally called the North American drug war. Of all of the issues out in the international system, and this includes the disintegration of China and what's going on in Ukraine, it is our relationship with Mexico that was going to determine the health, the wealth, and the security of the American citizens moving forward for decades. Mexico is our #1 trading partner, and it is also the vector by which we absorb cocaine into this country. So we have set up a situation where all of our interests align and are being dealt with in a very, very bad manner. Not just by this administration, but by the previous one, and the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. This is not a new problem. Okay, so economics of drugs. It's obviously about the cocaine. I mean, it's like you can put $500,000 of product in your backpack. Of course it's about the cocaine. And because it has a very high value to cost, it is very easy to smuggle. And so it doesn't really matter if you have a wall, because somebody with a backpack will just hop it and make themselves very, very wealthy very, very quickly. But once you get cocaine, you then are left with a big fistful of cash, and you can't exactly put it in the local credit union. So what happens is the cartels try to get into businesses where there's a fair amount of cash that flows through them. So agricultural harvesting or processing are relatively popular, as are things like real estate and rental properties. They're big fans of bars. What they do is they try to get a facility that has a lot of cash flow through, and then they just feed some of their drug profits through it and report it as income, and then it can get laundered and into the financial system at large. And in Mexico and in the United States, this has brought them into things like avocado and lime production. This has brought them into tourism. This has brought them into real estate rentals, up to and including just like, residential real estate, multifamily housing. The more you do this in a community, the more you start distorting the local economic environment. And that means you have to put another layer into it, and you have to get into the political elite. And that means going into universities, going into institutions, going to the local government and buying them off so that the tax man doesn't look too close at the books. And this is how you kind of hollow out systems from the inside. And this is one of the things that Sinaloa under El Chapo started to do in places like rural Texas, because it allowed him to get a foothold north of the border. South of the border, there is not a city in which this has not happened to some degree, but it's really, really popular in agricultural regions and places where tourism is really strong, like in the Yucatan Peninsula or in Cabo. Now, once a cartel reaches a certain point, they have enough resources they can reach up and down the supply chain. If you go north into the United States, you go out and you start interfacing with the drug infrastructure for distribution, and that takes you head-to-head with a lot of the gangs that you either co-opt or kill. If you go the other direction, you go up into Colombia and Bolivia and Ecuador, and you wipe out the local organized crime groups that do the first step smuggling, and you start interfacing with the producers of the stuff itself, and you start establishing a paramilitary presence in places like Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. In this case, the Sinaloa has far been the most successful at doing all of that. So we've got a transnational network that spans a half a dozen to a dozen countries in order to bring us our cocaine. And again, the solution here is very, very simple. Don't do cocaine. One more thing. I live in Colorado, and one of the things that Colorado has discovered in recent years is that they had a problem with processing the profits. So it used to be that in Colorado, you would basically have a giant walk-in safe because you couldn't put your money in the bank, you couldn't put it in a credit union, which meant that everybody had all this cash lying around, and these dispensaries were paying for everything in cash. Well, the Federal Reserve was like, whoa, that's a crime issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to send armored trucks to all of these dispensaries. We're going to pick up their cash. We're going to bring it out. We're going to iron it out and Febreze the crap out of it so it doesn't smell like pot anymore. And then we're going to make an electronic deposit into your account on behalf of the Federal Reserve. So no muss, no fuss. Well, the Sinaloa hears about this and like, whoa. Let me get this straight. The U.S. Federal Reserve is now in the business of laundering drug money. Sign us up. And so there's a lot of this cannabis supply chain in Colorado that has been bought up on all cash offers and is de facto owned by the Sinaloa cartel. So no easy fixes aside from don't do cocaine.